It is the last day of IAGS and I'm very excited. We've got Mike Whitbread with us today. Thanks for talking to me, Mike.
No worries.
I've heard a lot about you, but I've never actually had the privilege of spending much time with you. So I'm excited to find out all the things today.
Right.
It's been all good things, yes. But no, you've got a great reputation in the geochemistry world. So I'm very excited to pick your brain today. It's going to be good fun. Yeah.
No worries. Well, I guess how do you want to start? What do you want to talk about?
Well, what got you into geochemistry?
That's a yeah. It depends on how long you want that answer to be. But I started out I went to uni to do physics.
Yep.
And worked out that was really hard.
Yeah.
And then I'd done a subject in geoscience, and they'd shown me a couple of micas, some biotite and muscovite, and I went, "That's really cool." So I ended up doing geology with chemistry.
Yep.
And my worst chemistry subject was analytical chemistry.
Yep.
The closest thing I came to failing at university. So of course I'm going to end up in a career that's related to that later on. So what happened after that, I went into the exploration industry. I worked for a company called Pasminco.
Yep.
And I started out in Cobar, near Dubbo, the centre of the universe, apparently. And I was a little geo there, and we were reading the zinc numbers off a fax. So we'd get the fax in, and we'd look at the fax and go, there's a big zinc number in there. And that was the extent of our interpretation.
Wow.
And part of me went, this seems like something we could do a little better in.
Yeah.
And then a person called Dave Laurie joined Pasminco as their chief geochemist.
Yeah.
So for anyone who knows geochemistry well, Dave's pretty famous in that. And he showed us some very cool ways of visualizing the data that we had.
Yeah.
And, as part of the graduate rotation through Pasminco, I went and worked in a mine. But Pasminco was going into a bit of trouble. So they said, why don't we send you off to do a PhD and you can come back as a born-again geochemist or something like that, right? Whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah. And meanwhile, they went broke while I was doing it.
Oh.
So I got my first redundancy as a PhD student. So that's a good pathway into the industry. And when I came out of that, I sort of, the geochemistry title is sort of self-assigned. It's really the people that are passionate about it.
Yeah.
Usually, but not always, they've done a higher degree like a PhD or a master's or something, and they're just people who tend to be more interested in the data side of geology and how to get more information, more insights out of the data that we collect. So after Pasminco went broke and I finished my PhD, Dave moved into Anglo-American, and he sort of gave me some gigs consulting to them while I was nominally finishing my PhD. It was pretty, it's not a great thing to do if you're doing your PhD. Stay focused, kiddies, if I could say.
Yeah.
But it was all pretty good experience. I got to travel around the world, see really cool things. I've been to Namibia, went into Ireland, spent a month in Kilkenny, working there, South America. It was a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
Finished that, and then I joined IO Global, and we I guess brought gas into the IO Global fold, and many people who look at data will know what gas is and the cool things that it can do. And then after a period in there, I guess I'd been a consultant for a while.
Yeah.
I've learned many things from that team, and it was a fantastic experience. And many of them are friends still, and we see each other. This conference.
It was a big reunion this week.
Yeah, it was a little bit. Yeah, could get out of hand sometimes. But, I went back into the industry, partly because as a consultant, you don't always see everything all the way through. You just see little pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I wanted to follow the process from start to end, influence the data collection rather than just receiving a bunch of rubbish data and then telling them it was no good. Right?
Yeah.
So now I've been an industry geochemist, I guess you can call it that. And since then, so that's been, I guess I'm in the industry in total probably over 25 years now.
Wow, that is so cool.
I don't look like it, but it's okay.
Definitely, yeah.
So does that paint a picture?
Yes, I love it. That is awesome. Everyone's got such a different journey. Like there's no one size fits all into coming into the geoscience. It's very cool. I love hearing everyone's versions. It's awesome. And you did some presentations this week as well.
So we did one about an application that we'd built internally in Rio Tinto Exploration and just to show the things that you can do. And this is in the data science and machine learning space. And
Yep.
that's kind of where now I lean, is how we're getting to the point now we have so much data that we kind of need the capabilities that data scientists bring to bear, but we also need to understand the things that we're dealing with. So subject matter expertise, as we say. So I don't, I don't really want to dwell on the talks too much from this week, except to say that we were just trying to showcase what's happening in this space, and we were really here to see what others were doing as well. And there are companies that are definitely moving forward and doing really cool things, and we want to keep that momentum going, right? And we don't want to be still interpreting data the same way that we have been doing for the last 30 years. Geoscience sometimes is very stagnant in terms of progression, in terms of workflows and things that people use. So we want to find new ways to free up geoscientists' time, right? So that they, instead of just spending all day, say, logging a piece of core, can they actually get to the point where they're making decisions on that core instead of just doing the data collection piece? I do hold the record for the longest log in, I think, Rosebery Mine's history, because I was focused on all these little bits of detail, right? What a waste of time that was, and it was part of my learning experience when I was ridiculed in a good way by my colleagues for being a bit too pedantic, and because they were sort of highlighting the fact that a lot of that information would never be used. So, so it's a sort of how do we use the time that people spend sampling, observing,
right parts,
and actually make sure that that information is still used at the end of the process when someone's trying to get insights out of it.
Yeah. And what do you see as some of the future trends with workflows and tech and everything with geochemistry?
I guess there's the vision of where we might go.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just do that, because what happens, who knows? It depends what technology comes out. But I can see a space where we have a geologist will just have reams of information available to them, and a summary even that might be presented to them by an AI of some kind. And they are really there to validate that and make sure that seems sensible, and then focus on the bits that don't seem right, or spend their time on decisions that matter. And so that's a bit vague, I know, but and I'm just talking about core logging there. We want geologists to be able to ask questions very quickly. If they're in exploration, it might be where's the next zinc deposit, or where's the next copper deposit. And in the past, a piece of work might have taken 6 months from start to end. Can we get it to the point where they can do that every week? And they might cycle an idea, exhaust the possibilities, and pass the things that might have traction onto someone else to follow up, or do it themselves. Whereas in the past, it was so slow that it means discovery rates are low. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the things, contributing factors. So can we get to the point where everyone can ask questions of their data really quickly and work out what's working and what's not, and then they'll effectively test many ideas. Means we have a higher chance of success in exploration. In the mine, it's are we moving the right material to the right place? Ore body knowledge is a big thing in many companies, not just ours. So I think in that space, it's really around using the mine geologist time to do better things with the rocks that are right in front of them before something happens to them that's irreversible, right? Does that answer your question, I guess?
I think so. Yeah, it's cool. I'm liking the way that you think about things and approaching them. I think it's awesome. But I was curious, some fun facts about you. Things people might not know about you, some hobbies or...
Yeah, okay, this could be dangerous, right? So I play tennis. That's a very safe one. So
that's a safe one.
Yeah, very safe. But I'm quite enthusiastic about tennis. My father was a tennis coach.
Awesome.
So I didn't have a choice, really. So I still love playing that sport. It's a great way to stop thinking about work. Go and beat the hell out of a tennis ball. I get very frustrated as a tennis player. So
as a geochemist too, do you need the tennis?
Well, I don't throw my toys at work. I might throw them on a tennis court. So, it's all about, that sport, and the challenge that it has is it's about, if I hate failing. But failing's okay. It's just that I just don't like it, right?
Yeah.
And it's about trying to get better each time. So, you might get very cranky when something doesn't work out, but that, I guess, for me, it's part of the cycle of improvement.
Yeah.
I get cranky. I don't like being cranky, so I better fix it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a fun fact or it just highlights the psychological damage in my brain, maybe. But um, and I have other hobbies. We some of my work colleagues inspired me to start collecting Lego again.
Awesome.
So you see in Teams meetings now, some of them are inside the company I work for, some of them are out. A person I know has a Star Destroyer, one of the big ones that's about 3 meters long.
Awesome.
They don't really have a house big enough for that.
No.
So they got me going, starting to collect that, and that's been a cool way to connect with my daughters as well.
Yes.
We just have something sitting out in the middle of the table. So there you go.
I love Lego. We've got the flower vase one going at the moment. It's very cool. Yes.
Yeah, the orchids or
yes,
yeah,
I love it. It's so good. Yeah.
There's some people at work who collect the Lego. They'll actually buy 2 sets.
Yes. Oh,
and they'll
make
they'll
one
store
and save one.
and then they keep them and they appreciate in value, and then they deal in Lego. I didn't even know that was a thing until recently.
I know, that's really cool. I might have a look at that.
So that's pretty unrelated to what we're doing. So there you go. Hopefully that'll satisfy that question.
Yeah. Well, speaking of connecting with your daughters and like your kids and younger people, what tips do you have for like your younger self or people looking to come into the industry? Or
yeah, and it's a question that comes up quite a bit for those of us that are still in. Because a lot of people do spiral out in their 30s when they have families, and that because the exploration game in particular, you spend a lot of time away from home.
Yeah.
So there's part of it's about how to get in and part of it's how to stay in.
Yeah.
Right. So the getting in piece is really getting to know people. Networking is incredibly important, and it is a big factor in staying in as well. Who you know, the relationships you build. You've got to be competent, but generally speaking, most of the people I deal with in the industry, they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
So, and it's not always fair, right? So some very competent people end up out of work in downturns, and networks are a really good way to build some insurance.
Yes.
So number one thing is get to know people. If you're a student, go to your AIG events, AusIMM events. Doesn't really matter which one.
Yeah.
Engage with people who are in the industry, get to know them, find work, build a reputation of being able to deliver for people reliably. I think that really helps.
Yeah.
And of course, you've got to do a geoscience degree if you want to be a geologist. But people do move into that pathway in different ways now. So we see a lot of environmental students. We try and catch them at uni. Sometimes I'll do a guest lecture, say at the local university on geochemistry, and you can see the lights come on in people's eyes. And we try and encourage them to move laterally into geoscience if they've got the mindset to do so.
Yeah.
So do the right degree. Think about, do you like the world? Do you like exploring the world? Do you like understanding how things work? Do you like understanding why mountains are there and valleys are there? How rocks influence the landscape.
Yeah.
There's so many different aspects to geoscience, and that people can latch onto in different ways. And so it's about trying to encourage people to find what that is.
Yeah.
I
love that. That is brilliant. And then what about staying in?
Staying in the industry. So the old way, I might get in trouble for this, but the old way is to have an exploration spouse, as we would say.
Yeah.
So this is, in the days when you really expected to be away a lot, that was just considered to be part of the job, and you had to have the right partner who would be understanding. It's a bit like a military spouse. It's a concept that's not not just unique to our industry.
No.
But I think that's changing now, and I think, I'm not really here to talk about who I work for, right? But you see in many of the major companies that there are really good initiatives around parental leave now.
Yeah.
And so people can find different ways to balance the stresses of a family formation with working in industry, where you kind of do have to get out there. That's where the rocks are.
Yeah.
But we may see a time in the not too distant future where you'll be able to minimise some of the time in the field, because the data collection piece can be shorter.
Yeah.
see, you still need to understand the context. I think it's really important to see the rocks where you're working. But a bit like maybe the oil and gas industry, there's a lot of value that we can generate that can then, you can spend a lot of time later extracting that value.
Yep.
So we may end up at a point where, you know, a drill rig may collect a lot of data that you don't actually have to be there to observe.
Yeah.
And that really, maybe it's the field trip is really around setting up where to drill. But once it's drilling, do you really need to be part of that?
Yeah.
Or can you just interpret that data from the office?
Yeah.
And if we can find ways to balance those roles out,
Yeah.
and different roles are going to have different field requirements, it's not going to be fair, right? It's going to be, and maybe that'll come out in some roles will be paid more than others, depending on how much time they spend away from home. But I think there'll be career opportunities and options going forward that may not have been available to people who went through when I did. So I'm hoping that's the case.
Yes.
I think that's where it's going.
Yeah.
But we're not quite there yet, but I can kind of see in the not too distant future.
That way, yeah.
So, you know, what you see a lot is, say, women in particular, and they get to their 30s, it's a time when you've got to make decisions. We see a lot choosing geochemistry specialties or resource geology, those kind of roles where you can actually do the job and not be tied to the field for 6 weeks at a time or something like that. And so they've been very, you could see demographics and choices sort of controlling who ends up where.
Yep.
Based on you know, how friendly it is for families.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm hoping we'll democratise it out across the other roles with time.
Yeah.
And whether that's the right term or not, I don't know. But
no,
that's kind of where I see it going.
No, that's really cool.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you asked how to stay in. I guess you got to keep your family happy is kind of the summary of all of that.
Exactly. You got to balance it all. Yeah.
And you have to like what you do.
Yeah.
And I didn't even say that at the start, but it's because it's just implicit for me. But it may not be obvious to everyone, because sometimes you do have to do jobs you don't particularly like to just to understand geology and the way the world works. But hopefully at the end of each day, you go home going, "Oh, I've learned something,"
Exactly.
and then you get up in the morning going, "I'm going to learn something." Right?
Yeah.
So
I do find this, like, geoscientists have such a passion. Like,
yeah,
I love my job now. Like, it is just wild where I've ended up, and I feel very accidental where I've ended up. But now I get to have all these awesome chats with all these awesome people, and like everyone is always so passionate and like wanting to teach new things. Even after all these interviews, I'll be sitting down with like, "Oh, what's that?" And they're like talking through all the different structures. Like, everyone just finds whatever they can around, and then they're just teaching me like all this awesome stuff. And it's been so much fun. I find, the passion that I find geologists have is really inspiring.
Yeah, no, that's true. And passion is it tends the people that hang in. Yeah, the other part of that "how do you stay in" piece is being passionate about what you do. And you'll end up naturally, I think, with time moving to the space where you enjoy it most.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that it's always easy.
No.
No. We, in technical roles, we often have to work with those who are not technical and try and explain the story of the rocks and what's going on to people who don't really understand anything about it.
No.
So being passionate about it can sometimes help, because at least people they can see that you care.
Exactly.
They may not understand why you care, but they can see it, and hopefully you can develop a bit of a storytelling capability as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, storytelling's huge for the communication piece for sure. Yeah. I like quizzing everybody.
Uh-oh.
So pressure's on.
Right.
What about 30?
30?
Yep. What is it?
Which element is atomic mass of, or the Z number?
The number.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd have to go my.
Do you know them all?
I think I'm only up to about 20 something in my little mnemonic. So what I do, actually, I'm going to cheat, and in my pocket, I carry a periodic table.
Do you?
Yeah, of course.
That's so cool.
So, but the trouble is, now that I'm old and blind,
it's a bit small.
It's a bit small. So, I'd sort of have to like go like this and work out which one it was. But I haven't got my hand lens on me. It's in my bag over there too. So I don't know which one is 30. I This is why I carry a reference.
Exactly. Well, I learned a really cool thing earlier this morning, that things are placed in their part for a reason, and
Yes.
normally neighbours are aligned and you'll see them together.
Yeah.
So it's neighbours with copper and gallium and cadmium.
Copper, gallium. So this is not zinc, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
See,
Awesome.
you placed me in the region, so
I know.
there you go.
I helped you out there. Give you a few hints, but that was really cool. I didn't know that about the table, so I've learned a lot this week
No,
too.
it's actually there. Yeah, it's structured for a reason. And people often ask, why isn't it alphabetical? It'd be so much easier.
Yes.
And you go, well, but it tells you about the behaviour of those elements.
Exactly.
Based on
It's really cool.
so hopefully, I haven't embarrassed myself totally there by not knowing it straight off. But,
No, you've done well. I don't think anyone knows all the elements.
There are people who do. They love it. They
Really?
sing the little song and all that kind
I
of
know.
stuff.
I've been trying to learn that one this week, but I'm still only up to like 10. It's hard.
So yeah, if I'd counted my mnemonic a little better, I would have actually realized, because zinc is the last one that I remember. But I thought, I wasn't quite at 30, was I? Anyway. So what's your favourite element then? Do you have a favourite element now that you've been hanging out with a bunch of nerds all week?
I still want to learn more about a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'd go for a more traditional, well-known one, like a copper or gold, maybe gold, because it's pretty.
Oh, really? Yeah, gold's certainly valuable.
Yes, valuable and pretty and, all those fun things. But I don't know. What do you think my favourite should be and why?
Well, I can press upon you my favourite, which would be, it's actually a bit of a closer contest than it used to be. But antimony is one of my favourite.
Antimony.
And mostly because it's something that's showed up as a pathfinder in different deposit styles.
Yeah.
So as a baby geochemist back in the day, I was looking at dispersion halos around ore bodies. And how do you find an ore body when you drill a hole and you just nick the margins of it, or you don't actually hit the sulfide ore?
Yep.
But how do you tell that you're close to that? And antimony is a really good one for that. My close second favourite would be thallium.
Thallium.
Neither of them are very good for you, by the way, so don't eat them. But thallium, again, because of my background in the zinc game.
Yeah.
And thallium is a bit of one of the few elements that you can use in the zinc game to tell you when you're in the right sedimentary basin, and you might be outboard or something, or near to something. And we start to see that those two elements popping up in many different commodities, sometimes hosted in sulfides. Thallium can be hosted in micas, and so that's why I like those. So it depends what the reason for you having a favourite is.
Yes. Well, that's really cool. I'm going to remember that. I don't know if I'll remember thallium, but I'll definitely remember antimony. So that's easy. But no, this has been really fun getting to know you. Thank you so much for having a chat with me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
No worries.
And yeah, I'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Thank you.